Welcome, Alassane.
Hi everyone, how are you guys?
Yeah, all good, all
Thank
good.
you.
Sorry, I was just jumping off of another call, so
I know
my
you're a
bad.
busy guy. You're a busy guy.
No, it's just a morning here, so work day.
Okay. We forget that you're on the other side of the globe. All right.
How are you guys?
Should we get started so that we can finish quickly?
Yeah,
All right. Well, yeah. First of all, thank you to you guys for giving us the time this evening. I think the purpose of the meeting is just to talk a bit of strategy. Nothing set in stone. I did share the presentation, so I will just work through it. But first and foremost, let me ask. I'll just quickly say that everybody is present, and I'll just ask Charles Saunder. Mr. Saunders, please can you welcome everybody?
Yes, thank you, guys. And this is the first of the launch of all the webinars now. We decided to take the players' representatives first because we believe the integral part of how they're going to fit in going forward. And of course, monitoring the successes of each particular program. What is important about this is that everything has to marry into one another. I've had meetings now individually with the heads of the other commissions and asked them to present a strategy, which I'm still waiting for 2 weeks later. So we're going to start off with you guys, and Jerry's going to take you through what the expectations are, and then what type of strategy we have for the regions, and then hopefully at the end of the day, how do we develop the coaching player representation around Africa. All right, Jerry, up to you. Go for it.
All right, thanks, Charles. Yeah, so just to move to the just so in the presentation so that you've got your own version of it. It's obviously the calendar. I've just broken it down into obviously competition. So first half of the year, the regional under-22 men's, and then second half of the year, which we didn't really cover too much in the first meeting, was the club championships. But we'll obviously talk more about that later on in the year. Development workshops happening in and around the regional tournaments. And again, maybe opportunity to do workshops around player commissions, etc., etc. And then some your sort of personalized meetings. We can obviously add to this. We haven't scheduled a follow-up later this year, but obviously we'll update that as we go. But again, nothing stopping us having ad hoc meetings when required. Okay, just to go run through the way and again, the presentation is based on how we see it. You guys obviously come in here and you know, have your input and run with it, but maybe this document that we put together is a discussion document and something for us to tweak and you know, to use as the presentation and templates to get the regional player commissions off the ground. Sorry, I will add the relevant arrows and that, but just the way we see it, obviously player commission chairperson, which I take it as Alassane, with Michelle as the IWBF International Player Commission representative, just working as your right-hand lady. Then also to include Dr. Yetzer with regards to research and development. Again, their interest is around players and player well-being, etc., etc. So I think it's you know, as we discussed in the executive council meeting, is a hand-in-hand relationship there. And then basically the regional players commissions, north, south, east, west, and central, would then have a minimum of at least one representative, but maybe you could work towards a male and a female from each of those regions. And then like what you guys have for your international body, position somebody to work closely with a classification, technical coaching, and any other commission that you might suggest at the same time. In terms of the way we see the role of the Regional Players Commission, advocacy and representation, act as the voice for the African wheelchair basketball players within the region. So obviously in their specific region, to advocate for the needs, concerns, interests of African players at an international level. Communication, act as the liaison for the players within their region. And then obviously facilitate communication channels to ensure the players' voices are heard and any concerns are addressed. Promotion, development, and that should read data research. I'm not sure that got jumbled there, but I'll correct it. Promote the growth and development of wheelchair basketball across the African region. Encourage participation at all levels, from grassroots all the way through to the elite level. And then work in liaison with the research and development chairperson to ensure the growth and well-being of all the players. Roles continued, education and awareness, obviously, to totally educate the players on what their rights, responsibilities, and opportunities within the sport, raising the awareness of wheelchair basketball and disability rights within the various regions. Policy and decision-making, they must participate in the policy discussions and decision-making process within the African Players Commission, and also have representation on the technical classification and coaching commissions. Ensure that African players' perspectives are considered in the formulation of the rules and regulations and policies. Support and guidance, provide the support guidance of the African players, particularly those transitioning from their national into international competition. Moving on to the responsibilities, the regional commissions would have to attend meetings and conferences where needed, report back to their regional communities as to what was discussed and decisions that were made in those particular meetings and conferences, collaborate with all the stakeholders, being the technical coaching classification commissions, just within the advancement of the sport. And then obviously partnerships and cooperation to address challenges and achieve common goals. Provide feedback and input. So obviously any feedback that comes from the players within their region, they need to pass that information on to the leadership. And provide constructive criticism and suggestions in improving the sport and its governance. And last slide I have is promote unity and solidarity, foster a sense of unity and solidarity amongst all the African wheelchair basketball players, encourage collaboration and mutual support between the regions. And then just in conclusion that this is a very important role that needs to be filled, and they must work closely with yourselves to develop the commission. So that, I think that in essence from our side is what we see, and I think to move on is to get your input. And then Alassane, you did come back, you did chat to me on, I think it was Friday, saying that you wanted to have a brainstorm about how to get the regional commissions off the ground. So I'm going to hand it over to you guys now, and let's have some input.
Thank you very much, Jerry. This is great. This is amazing. I mean, I think it all makes sense, and you kind of pretty much covered all the important points. So it seems that we're all on the same page. I would say, so a couple of things. I think if you go back to the org structure that you had at the very beginning, so you have the 5 regional representatives and then 3 more representatives for each commission. I think, and Michelle, feel free to chime in here, I think it makes more sense to only have the 5 regional representatives, and then they can also serve as the regional representatives, but as well hop in on the different commissions. At least that's what we're doing on like IWBF World. So we have the 8 reps from the 4 different regions, and for example, Michelle is sitting on classification. I think we have Hero on competitions, and I mean, different people on different commissions, but they serve both as the reps for the region and the commissions. And this way, I mean, we have a little bit less people. I feel like the more people we add, it doesn't necessarily mean that we get to do things better. It might get a little bit more complex with the communication and having to free everyone's schedules to meet up. So maybe we can start with 5 reps for each region to start to begin.
I think probably not very clear on it, but that is sort of the way I was. You could then say, the northern region representative puts up his hands and says, "I'll sit on the technical representative." There's nothing stopping that.
Okay, perfect. And then the other thing
if I can just say, just come in here, please. Between Michelle and Alassane, you determine who sits on what commission. The athlete representative does not. Okay, he has basic strengths and weaknesses. You can establish that amongst yourselves and then make that determination. Because at the end of the day, whoever you put in position has to, first of all, be an acceptance of what is needed to be done and have an understanding of what needs to be done, rather than them saying, yes, I want to do technical, I want to do classification, I want to do this, I want to do that. Because then it just creates more homework for us to try and train them up into those particular capacities where if they have that experience already, I mean, 9/10 of our work is done.
Yeah, it makes life easier. Yeah, understood. We're definitely going to make sure that we put people kind of to play with their strengths. We did the same thing on the world level, so hopefully we can keep applying that. I think the second thing that we need to discuss for the regional representatives is how we're going to move forward with that. So our initial thoughts were, at least for the first couple of years, we want to have some type of steering representative commission, or like steering athlete commission for Africa, meaning that these 5 positions would not be voted in for the first couple of years, just until we set it up. We would work with the different NOWBs to see who is a good fit for these roles, and have them nominate someone. Very, very similar to what happened with the Players Commission on the world level. And we would work with this team to set up the structure, to set up the kind of how we would be working over the next amount of years. And after that, we can set up a voting system. As you know, it's going to be a little bit different for the player reps compared to any other position on the executive council, because you get voted in by players. So we need to start thinking about what's going to be the election process, what's going to be the voting process, how are we going to, when will this take place? These are some of the discussions we're having on the world level. And I think in Africa especially, it might be difficult to have this online, because maybe not everyone is familiar, maybe not everyone has the internet connection. So do we start doing this at the qualifiers, where we have a little booth and players can come in? And I mean, we can think about all of this stuff, but this is why, from a logistic perspective, I think it's easier to start with the steering commission that is nominated, and then we can start thinking about this stuff over like the next year or two, where we start thinking about voting, election process, how are we going to document this, to make sure, because again, another issue that came up during the world elections is that no one really nominated themselves. So most of the player representatives got voted in, or not voted in, but got like into the position by, I think, acclamation is the word, because the lack of nominations. So I want players to know that they have a voice. I want players to know that this is something that they can apply for, and that this position is going to make a difference. And it's not just another position on the executive council for a player to be there that doesn't really do anything.
Absolutely in agreement with you. Again, how you want to structure it, please just provide us with a particular program. Let's say by end of February, we have a direction, and there onwards, we can launch what we need to launch. But I think right now, let's just do timelines. How you go about the election process, we can always be guided by world process and use what they do. If there isn't something in place by then of course we just come back to our statutes and work in line with our statutes. But as you said, it's different from putting up your hand and saying yes, I'm there, and really and truly you're doing nothing but being there as a position. As you know who I am, I don't advocate that, and I am totally against people that are fronting themselves just for a title. Everybody that's on board will do work, and they will meet a particular compliance. So I'm very happy with what has been stated now, and I think just put the deadlines on there, the timelines. Okay, you're going to give yourself a year to get yourself in order. You're going to give yourself 18 months, 2 years. Whatever we do, just remember that we will be holding council meetings once a year, and between that time period, 4 times a year is when the committee meets, and then of course council meetings. So any given time during that period, if we turn around now and say 2 years from date, that this is all going to be completed and we're going to have full representation, I'm happy. You say 12 months, I'm happy. Well, the main thing that we need to do is get this up and running and do it properly so that there's fair representation, because there's a lot that's moving at the moment, and regarding a lot of concerns that we are having coming through from international bodies, especially through the United Nations, and there's a lot of work that has to be done in the background. We're launching in South Africa at the moment to find out how the safeguarding policy we put in play, and then once we perfected that, then we will start introducing it to the Players Commission, because they are going to be handling it, and they're going to be the stronghold of safeguarding. So let's just talk about timelines now. When do we expect things to be in play?
I was thinking the next qualifiers, I think we should have like a meeting, maybe before the games, once all the teams have arrived. Maybe it should be like a gathering where like all the athletes just sit, and then so we can tell them what's going on, so they are aware that there's such thing as the Players Commission, and that they can actually nominate themselves through their NOBs. And yeah, I think it could start from there.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea,
Okay.
Michelle.
I think also remember that you have complete access to the regional chair people, and anytime you require to have these particular meetings, whether it is via webinar, whether it's by seminars, you need to just inform that this is the way we're going to go forward, and again, give me timelines so that we've got plenty of time to put it together. So if we're looking at the next qualifiers, will be taking place in Egypt, and that will be taking with the under-23s. So what's important about it?
Sorry, Charles, just going. Why not look at the regional qualifiers?
Again, and I was coming to that before
Okay.
you happily interrupted me.
No worries.
But the situation is remember that our council meetings all take place at African qualifiers. So decisions are made then. Okay, with our regional meetings, they are proposed, adopted, but cannot be put in play until there's a council meeting. So where we have our regional qualifiers, which are taking place from now until June, of course, we get the players reps to be part of it and start introducing the program. But by December in Egypt is a council meeting where we can adopt specifically what we need to do.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay.
I think the one in Egypt is a good start. It's the under 22 team, or under 22 teams. So this is kind of the new generation of players that's going to be coming into Africa. So it's good for us to start with these players, because we start to do it kind of young. They know it's probably a lot of them their first tournament, so they get to know that the players commission is there and that they need anything, who the player reps are. I really like this idea, and Michel has done some type of like a similar seminar or a similar presentation during the U23 World Championships. So maybe Michelle, you and I can work on this and kind of have something similar to what you did in Thailand. In the meantime, I think until this tournament happens, we need to be in communication with, and I can start doing that with the. I don't know if we should do it with the regional chairpersons or with the NOWBs directly. Maybe Jerry, you can guide us here. But I want to start talking to the different NOBs and see who would they nominate from each zone. I know like we want to avoid having more than one rep from the same country. So ideally the northern rep is not going to be from Egypt and the southern rep is not going to be from South Africa. And we also want to take into consideration the different languages. So probably in the northern region, I want to say someone that either speaks Arabic or French. West is probably going to be French. I don't know about Central or Eastern, what's the most common languages there, but we can.
Central is French and Eastern is English.
Okay, so we're probably going to have the like the language requirement for each zone, I would say, just to make sure that the rep can communicate with everyone in their zone. And we also need to make sure we're kind of having a gender equality at the beginning. Maybe I don't want to have 10 reps. I think it's too much. So, so maybe we can.
I think Michelle agrees with you.
Yeah. So maybe we can do 2 or 3, and 3 or 2, like depending on how it goes, depending on the nominations we do. But again, Jerry, what do you recommend in terms of having this communication go out? Should we be communicating with the regional chairpersons or with the NOWBs?
I think the best way to do it is through me, and then I'll distribute it to the regional chairpersons, and then follow up to make sure that information is getting distributed. So everything must come through the office, and then what I tend to do is send it to NOWBs and copy the regional chairpersons, and probably I think, unless Charles has a different opinion, that's probably the best way to go. So what we can do is say, here's some information about the Players Commission. We're starting regional, so within your region there will be one nomination, and then we can then do a slide with the roles and responsibilities. This is what you're getting yourself into, and then they send their nominations through back to us, and then I'll send them on to you guys.
Okay.
Charles, do you agree with that, or would you suggest a different way?
No, I think this is something that needs to be done, but I do believe that within our statutes, the regional chair people are not to be overridden.
Yeah.
We've put them inside there for a reason, and it's for them to do specifics. When we're dealing with the NOWBs from the office side, really it is to deal with their membership and submission for competition, and of course payments, etc. But I do believe that once this commission has put in play its members or proposed members, that the regional chair people must be brought into it, because they are the ones that are going to facilitate majority of the competitions that are taking place in their regions, which means that through your office, it can be determined that at those regional competitions, we send one of our reps up that side to basically find out, because remember now, what we are doing is we're breaking protocol with the regional competitions. We are inviting teams that are members and non-members. So we are hoping that at the end of this particular project, we will have at least 7 countries per region in competition, 6 to 7 countries out of the 10 countries per region. If we can achieve this, it means that we're going to basically talk to the basketball community of Africa. And at that, it's important that one of the players' reps are present at these regional competitions so that they can talk to the players.
Yeah.
And your regional chair people will be present. So they will have an understanding of what's going on quite clearly. And they need to understand that, you know what, this is now an active form of his commission. And by doing that, we will get through to a lot more people than dealing through the NOWBs, because in my experience, we get to the president of the NOWB and it stops.
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't go any further. And this for me is one of the frustrating parts of my tenure within Wheelchair Basketball Africa, is the fact that all this communication goes out, all the work is done, and boom, we have an arrogant arsehole sitting as a president, and it doesn't get further than him. And then also we have to remember that the NOWBs, many of them are still part of the Olympic Committee or Paralympic Committee.
Yeah.
And therefore it stops there. My recommendation would be run it through the regionals.
Yeah.
And at the regionals and I know it's going to be a lot of work and a lot of traveling that's taking place between the two of you. The sooner, the quicker that we get this over and done with, the better it's going to be and the easier it's going to be. But I recommend that if we plan, like we're planning coaching, technical and classification workshops taking place, we plan players workshops as well. And then I think we will be able to achieve what we're trying to do. I believe so anyway. It's, Africa is a strange continent. We think we're on top of it, and next moment we're burnt. So, yeah. That would be my suggestion.
Yeah, I think just to echo what Charles said, I agree. I'm currently having various meetings with the different regional heads, and they all, they've seemed to have bought into what needs to be done, and it'll be my role to chase them when we, and if you're needing information, you're not getting it, then it's a message to me, and we'll chase them up.
Yeah, most definitely, and I really, but by doing this, we kind of short circuit a lot of heartache. Okay, over the last 3 years of both Jerry and mine tenure in IWBF Africa, we've had to learn how to do certain things, and this is our experience at this stage, is that don't complicate it, work through the players, get the players on board. The regional reps are there, the regional chairman are there to support the initiative, and then you make your choices. So when we finish off with Southern Africa, and Southern Africa is completed, we have at least one person that's going to put up his hand to say, yes, I support this initiative and I will sit on board. Okay, and then so on and so on. So I think this is the best way forward. If there's any other suggestion, then please come up with it.
No, I think it makes sense to start. And okay, so we can kind of follow this plan for now. Maybe Jerry, I'll share with you an email communication that should go out to the regional chairpersons, and maybe some of the requirements we talked about regarding the language, the gender, all of this.
Perfect. I think do that, send that to me, and then also from your side, take a look at the competition schedule there that's on screen that you've got on the presentation, and then give us a timeline of, okay, you know, we at the Southern Region tournament, we'll have a presentation by Michelle, and she'll go run through the player there. Then, you know, then at each of those ones, and then with the intention of finalizing something come Egypt in December, and give us that timeline, and then you know, then follow that in with the requirements from your side, what is needed, and then I think I'll just take some of the unnecessary slides out of this presentation. And then we can add that into a document and send it out through the regional chairs to the NOWBs.
Yeah, that makes sense, which kind of brings me to the next question. Actually, a couple of questions. So for now, while we're working on getting the regional player commissions up and ready, me and Michelle can be sitting in on the meetings that the different commissions are having, so technical coaching and classification. If there are any meetings being held, I think it's good for us to kind of just be involved at the moment and see what they have in plan for Africa, so we can kind of also chime in if needed. I think this is one thing we can start discussing with the heads of the different commissions. And the other thing is the finances. So if we're going to be, like, I know Michelle, obviously for South Africa, it's not a big deal. She's going to be there. But for the rest of the competitions, if we're going to be going to are we going to be going to all of them? This is one question. The second is, if we're going to be going to all of them, how does the like facilitation of travel and all of that work? Is it undertaken by IWBF Africa, IWBF World, or what's the process there?
Yeah, again, we're going to have to look and see what are we going to be getting from IWBF World in line with the development grant. There's normally a $5,000 development grant that is provided, but also Alassane, I think you'll remember at council they had turned around and said that this particular program would need to be funded and supported via the international body, but they haven't come up with a budget or anything for this as it stands. So I can't answer that question until we basically meet with them in March, in the next couple of weeks, and then we'll be able to have a clearer idea on how they're going to handle it. If the answer is no, they're not going to pay for it, then we're going to need to use that development funds and make sure that we basically implement it with the finances that we are given. I cannot tell you at this stage that yes, we've got money in the bank account, because as you're all fully aware, we are going to be paying back quite a bit of this money to IWBF.
We are in the poo.
Yeah.
Yes, literally.
No, I mean,
And,
I completely understand. And maybe there is no need for us to travel to every single tournament. I'm just kind of putting the question up there so we can figure it out, because I know it's something that came up during, even on the World Forum. How are we going to deal with this? And it was something that,
correct.
like, we had struggled with, or not struggled with, but it was one of the things, like, it's expensive, right? To bring in the 8 athlete reps, for example, to Worlds. It's not cheap to do that. So we just needed to kind of figure out how we would do it. I'm sure that World might have some suggestion there. I think for the bare minimum, if we're not going to be doing the regional qualifiers, I think the bare minimum, the athlete reps should be in the big tournaments. So, like, obviously the World qualifiers and Paralympic qualifiers, these two tournaments, the athlete reps should be there. At least like me and Michelle. Yeah, at least me and Michelle for the big ones, and then for the regionals, hopefully we can get just the one athlete rep to get to be there once we have them, of course.
Yeah, look, it's I think that's just a non-conform that you have to be at the big competition. Again, we need to have a look at this and be very upfront as well and say, you know, you're coming from the States. Would it be cost effective to take Michelle to each of the regional tournaments and let her do the presentation?
No, of course.
Or something to that effect, and put it through as cutting one of the executive staff members so that Michelle can take up that cost, because there are normally 2 executive members that will travel to each of the competitions, and we can be very clear on this and say, okay, it's Jerry and Michelle that travels to these competitions, and for
especially
this
the
period of
regionals.
time, especially regionals.
Yeah.
Because I think that regionals is vitally important. I'm very optimistic that we are going to be looking at around about 5-6 teams at each of these competitions. And these are the teams that are going to be important teams because they're playing basketball within the actual area at the moment. They're not members. And the whole idea of this next 6 months is to convert them into members. And at the same time, use the capacity that we to get all the information.
Yeah.
Yeah,
My personal
I have a
opinion.
question. So you're saying that the regionals, they could have non-members. Does that mean it's not going to be an IWBF sanctioned tournament? It's just going to be a
No,
So
so-
the regional tournaments don't fall under IWBF. They fall under Africa. Okay, it is the qualifiers that fall under IWBF. So part of the development structure that we are looking at is to turn around and say, how do we get new members? Okay, we have approximately 33 countries that are playing wheelchair basketball in Africa as we sit now, of which only 22 are members.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we get this other 11 members on board? Okay, and in discussion with competitions through my office and SG was, you know, the best way forward is to honestly invite these teams to these competitions, let them participate, let them see what, first of all, they're missing out on. Let us understand how they are structured. Are they through an NPC? Are they through a national federation? And then we have a better understanding of what we're working with. Because at this stage, the way that it's set up through IWBF World is not the easiest way. Nobody can become a member unless they're right through to IWBF World. We don't even know they're members until we get to a council meeting. And then at the council meeting, we understand that we have X amount of new members.
Yeah.
So it's not an easy way for us to run our particular zone. And I understand that all members are IWBF World members, and the zone facilitates what needs to be facilitated in the zone. I understand this. But we need to grow Africa. And we are limited if we only rely upon the members that we have. Because
100%.
every time we are at the end of the year say, wow, we've grown now to 25 members, we have 3 members that haven't paid. And they suspended. So we never growing. And it's hands behind your back. We've got to make a difference, but there's hands behind our backs all the time. And the decision was that under non-sanctioned IWBF tournaments, okay, we will qualify teams that are members, and other teams can play in competition. And hopefully the exercise at the end of the day is that when we leave there, at least out of the 5 to 6 teams that are competing in that competition, we'll pick up 2 members. So my project, or should I say, my development plan for this year is to ensure that we have another 6 members by the end of the year. And the only way we're going to do this is by running these regional competitions.
I agree.
in a different way from the protagonists that IWF World expect. We're not Europe.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're not Europe. We're not Europe where they can have 1, 2, and 3. And you know what? Europe don't inform IWBF what goes on. And this is something that we've been finding out. Europe are very, very clever. They will run their development tournaments with non-members. Okay, clearly. And the situation is that all they concentrate is Premier Division 1, 2, and 3. That's it. And everybody says, wow, you're running 3 sets of tournaments. But the 4th set of tournament is non-member countries.
Yeah, and it's not broadcasted, and we don't know.
And it's not broadcasted. So we don't have to broadcast the fact that we've got Somalia and this that are competing in these particular zones. But what we can do, you know, when I was on the committee when Hamid was running it, Hamid had the tournament in Cherry. Where was that the tournament held?
That was the Agadir tournament.
Agadir tournament. And at the Agadir tournament, we had Senegal that came through, Mauritania that came through, 1 or 2 other countries that were never members. Okay, but they participated in an open tournament. And this is what we want to do at the regionals. Let them participate. Let them actually see. Use this opportunity to say, hey, this is how you do it. Okay, and this is how we're going to teach you. And this is what we can provide for you. And get them through, because this is what we found with Libya. Libya was keen and interested, but didn't know how to do it. So we had to have an offline conversation with him so that he fully understood. Once he understood, bang,
100%.
suddenly a member. Yeah.
And I think Libya is going to be a great addition to the northern region. These guys are working hard. And
they're going to be, if I remember them years and years ago, okay, a good 15, 16 years ago, they were the top of Africa.
And hell's bells, they've got over 150,000 disabled athletes that they can choose from.
Correct.
Yeah,
After the war,
I mean,
so it's a question of time. So yeah.
I mean, look how Senegal
the challenge we might have with these regional tournaments is, you know, a lot of these nations, as we know, don't have an under 22. But now that there's an incentive and that, you know, hopefully, and I think the beauty about the regional tournaments is it's less expensive. It gives the people an opportunity. And yes, you know what, maybe a country wins the regionals, but then they can't afford to go to Cairo at the end of the year. Then the next country steps in. So, but at least it's giving competition to those regions.
Yeah, agreed. I mean,
Anyway.
and they have to start somewhere. Like, if the program is small enough and, like you said, it doesn't have funding, if they keep winning those regional tournaments and then missing out on the big tournament because they don't have funding, then they fight for their funding, right? It's a stepping stone.
Exactly.
Compared to going into a big tournament and getting like the 9th place or 8th place, it's hard to fight for funding when you're getting last place.
Yeah, and exactly.
It also helps us with our progressive plan, with our strategy. At the moment, under 23s, under 20, under 22, under 24, and women competition, we are only saying 8 women teams, 8 boys teams. My hope at the end of the day is that after this set of regionals, and yes, it's a lot of ifs and buts, but after the set of regionals, okay, we can then say, you know what, we can run next year a 12-team under 25 women's tournament. Yeah. Yes,
that's the ultimate goal.
And that's the goal. That's the plan. That's our strategy at the end of the day. By the time that I step down at the end of this term, it has to be. And Jerry and I were talking this morning and on Friday, and the situation is it's a matter of repetition.
Yeah,
repetition until these people turn around and say, "Oh, that's the way it's done."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, already
once
now,
that's in play, you're smiling.
Yeah, already now, you know, like if you look at last year, we had the regional tournament, same time of the year. So off we went and we did the regional tournaments. Now we're doing it again this year. You know, I think mid-year we released the 2025 calendar, and they already see, oh, shoot, it's happening again. And then, you know, come 2025, okay, next, here's a 26 and 27 calendar. And then, you know, then it becomes like you know that the IWBF Africa has the regional competitions between March and June every year. So there you go.
Yeah. And also what was so comforting this year is they came to us and said, when's the tournament? We didn't have to, they say that we haven't got the calendar. When's the tournament?
Yeah, exactly. Like they made me feel like I wasn't doing my job. Like, hey, well, how come I haven't got my calendar? And I'm like, whoa, hold on, guys, there's a lot of logistics to plan. But again, now that we and as much as I say that for the regional and all for the NOWs, even for ourselves as an executive council, we all know hell's bells. We've got to make sure that these competitions take part. Now, as you see on this calendar, there's a club championships at the end of the year, so that's going to be another thing, you know. So all of a sudden,
I was going to ask about that.
Yeah, and another, you know, now those guys on the Africa Forum and the Africa News Group that are complaining that there's no competition and there's nothing. Now they won't be able to complain. The challenges will be coming. Oh, we can't afford to travel, and I know those, you know, for the clubs, and that's going to be a different challenge. But you know, if we don't start it, we'll never progress.
We'll run it. And what's good about it as well is that everybody on this platform, we opened up a platform years ago that was non-members, and we just allow these guys to talk and do and be, and we don't interfere with what they've got to say. We just release snippets of information, and by the end of the day, they all turn around and saying, oh, but we can only be members to be in attendance. Okay, so this club championship, you don't have to be members. It's the African Club Championships. It's not a sanctioned tournament by IWBF World.
Okay. So with the club championships, how's it gonna work? Is it gonna be like mixed teams, like teams with
Yes, Michelle.
mixed players? Yeah, you know, I'm always pushing for that.
I know where you're going with this, Michelle. Yeah, I'll let Charles. You can talk about that one.
Okay, look, Michelle. At the end of the day, we're getting this competition off the ground. So I don't have a problem if they're going to be mixed club teams or whatever the case may be. The only problem that comes about it, and when you guys start looking at the safeguarding setup, is the protection of vulnerable adults. Okay, so if we're going to have mixed teams, what have we got in play that is going to protect the young ladies?
Yeah, that's the same problem we're having in Egypt.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all it is. And then it's easy for us Westerners to say this and that, but I know for a fact that in Algeria they will not allow a mixed team. I know that for a fact. Okay, and it's a concern that when we look at this, we have to be compliant with everybody. We can make a rule and
it's optional.
State it's optional.
It's optional.
But also,
And
Michelle,
the
the ultimate goal, you know, we're launching this with probably in the men's competition. Let's for argument's sake say that. But the idea is the following year we want to include the women, so we want women's clubs. So you know, so that's the plan. But I think I agree. Optional if you want to include women in your teams, no problem. Yeah, but does that create a problem for maybe, you know, maybe Alassane can come here, like if Algeria club side is playing against a side that's you know, got 4 or 5 women players, is that going to be an issue or not so much?
They play.
No, I think it's not their team, so they can't control it. They have so I think you would just have a regular, similar to how Europe is doing. You would have a clause saying that if a girl is playing on a team, on a mixed team, then she's 1.5 points less, and the teams have a choice to either incorporate a female on the team or not. And trust me, maybe at the beginning, Algerians, Egyptians, like all of the Arab countries might not be very okay with it, but when they see the other teams starting to play 4-4s on the court and having, because they can have like a 1-pointer that's counted as a 0 or a 0.5, negative 0.5, that like how exactly Europe is doing it. I mean, it started off with people not adopting it, but it's a very successful model in my opinion, like having the youth players counted as a negative 1.5, the female players is negative 1.5. All of a sudden you can have this stacked team with 4s everywhere just because you can run a female or 2 on the court. So
And
it
let
will
me
take
tell
some
you,
time.
and let me tell you, those female players in Europe are better than a lot of our male players. So.
Oh, they're better than all. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
they would come
exactly.
in and get league MVPs in our tournament.
Exactly. Exactly.
The only thing that we've got to look at, and this is why we have to workshop this correctly, all right? Because we have a concern that was given in South Africa where after there was an injury to a woman, the sponsor then specified in their contracts, this can only be a men's competition. This can only be a women's competition.
Oh.
And that is where we've got to be very, very cautious, because in each coast where they're going to run the competition, we have to be privy to the law of the country. And if the law of the country turns around and says no, then no matter what we want to do, we can't achieve what we've said or set out to do. And if this is a major sponsor that's on board, that's saying, yes, we are going to sponsor this tournament, but it'll only be for men, or it'll only be for women, then again, we are limited in which way we go. So from a marketing perspective, we need to take this into consideration. We do an A and a B plan with whatever we do and however we do it, taking in consideration that if we have a bunch of old fuddy-duddies that are sitting in the marketing department that is sponsoring us, and they say, no, it's traditional men competition, no, traditional women's competition, you're screwed.
No, I think we should just push them into letting it be a mixed competition. I think we should just show them the positives that are going to come out of it at the end of the day.
This is what we did. This is what we did with Supersport. We showed the positives on how it was going to grow our women's team and our junior under 23 team and so on, until the injury took place. Then it was, we're not happy about this. We are terminating the sponsorship. So wherever there's a positive, you need to cover. Okay, you need to cover. And if you're looking and seeing what's happening worldwide now, all right, it is specified clearly. So in Europe, they're using women players in all of their subdivisions, but in their Premier Division, no women players, because they have a problem with sponsors. Yeah. So it's not saying no, it is saying, let us create a plan A and a plan B, and then confront the problem at the end of the day. Because if there's a women championship running and there's a men's championship running, and then I have the idiot men turn around and say to me, but the women are playing in the men's competition, so why can't we play in the women's competition?
Let them play. Let them play.
Okay. Read the safeguarding policy and then come back and tell me.
Yeah.
Okay. So all I'm saying to you is that, yes, I don't have a problem. But yes, I also have to look at the restrictions that come around with it.
Makes
okay.
Sense.
For example, I've got breweries that want to sponsor the international, the African Club Championships. But I know that alcohol sponsorship is banned in majority of Muslim countries,
yeah,
including Ethiopia. I know this. So it's not even viable for me to continue with the sponsorship agreement. So whatever I'm trying to say is that there's always a positive and there's a negative, and we have to have a look at everything before we go say yes. Okay. I'm hoping that with the club championships that we launch this year, we launch with women and men as competition.
Yeah.
Okay. And there's some teams that are going to be out there that are going to say, listen, we are playing with men and women. Okay, that's fine. But then you need to take the consequences that come through with it, sign the indemnities, be aware that under certain countries, there's certain laws. And if the law says no, that's it. The law says no. And we won't compromise the competition on that basis.
Absolutely.
Because if we do, we're constantly in court. We don't have that resource. And I've dealt with enough sponsorship in my lifetime to know that when that sponsor says, go to hell, that is it. You can kiss butts, it will never work. They will never come back on board again. Talk to Jerry that worked in the sponsorship field. He will tell you clearly, once the sponsor goes, never would he ever come back to the front again. Never come back to the fore.
Yeah, no, you got to be very mindful of that. But as you said, it's not all doom and gloom. Let's have a strategy where a plan A and a plan B, put it on the table, and then let's see. I think first get the buy-in from all the regions, because at this stage we probably might not have a sponsor, but if we do, then that's a different story. Get it going, and let's see what happens.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. There's always ways around it. It's how we pitch it.
Yeah, and I think you've got to just have your strict rules and regulations, Yes, we'll allow it, but there's on the conditions that safeguarding policies are adopted in all of those, because, men and women traveling together, it creates a whole nother set of rules and regulations there as well. So
Can't believe it.
yeah, so
That's why FIBA
it's sexual harassment. It's
yeah.
vulnerable. It's a lot of stuff, and the way the world's going, with the whole safeguarding policies and that, we just got to be very careful. But it's not. It's as long as those are in place and everybody is clear on them, then happy days. Yeah.
So you see what FIBA does now, and I've just attended the workshop this afternoon, the TD workshop this afternoon. They've had to specify with every single one of their competitions, okay, because exactly the same thing as what we are talking about has come about. They've had to specify, okay, World Championship qualifiers, window 1 for men, World Championship qualifiers, window 1 for women. And you no longer, as they used to have, World Championship qualifiers. And when we confronted them on this, I was told very politely, just read up the FIBA safeguarding policy. And under the safeguarding policy, it says very clearly to avoid anything where there can be sexual harassment, sexual assault, harassment, intimidation, you cannot have it. And I didn't even bother about arguing, because I've studied the safeguarding policy now that has come through from the international community. And it's clear. A woman's on the basketball court, a male reaches out, touches her boob, she can lay a sexual assault against that male. So if we're going to run some sort of safeguarding setup, we need to take it into consideration and say, okay, no problem. We do this, we do that. However, we need to create the indemnities that go through with it.
Yeah, anyway.
So no matter how we do it, we just got to protect every single person that's out there.
Yeah. Athletes as well, athletes, coaches, staff, everybody.
Yeah, 100%.
Because it's fast getting to a stage where, as a coach, you're not going to want to coach a team anymore because there's just too many, too many things that are going to regulations, and you think, shit, it's not worth me getting involved. So, yeah. But anyway, let's not go doom and gloom. Let's look at the positives, and let's grow it. Let's get this off the ground in October, November.
Correct.
Definitely. Can I add one more thing regarding the traveling of the players commissioners to different regions for the presentation? I was actually thinking that if we just going to the under 25 men, under 22 men's competitions, does that mean we're gonna go to the women, or maybe we could just go to the senior competitions?
Well, next year, Michelle, next year is the men and women senior world championship qualifiers, am I right, Charles? Yeah, for Africa, and then the U25 women. So there's 3 major competitions next year. This year is just the one. So if you look at our regional qualifiers next year, it's going to be for 3 age groups.
Correct.
Yeah, I was thinking we could just do it for the senior age groups, because I think most of the senior teams have the younger players too, just for the budget cut, because this looks like we're gonna go to probably all the U22s, all the U24s, and then the senior. That's a lot of traveling.
What's the problem, Michelle? Don't you like traveling?
I love traveling.
No, Michelle, I think honestly, I think with the timeline that we've spoken about, first and foremost, let's get the information out to the regional things where we have opportunities at these regional tournaments. We run a presentation. There's also nothing stopping yourself and Alassane jumping on a Zoom with me. We record it, and then we can even have somebody just present that presentation. At a regional tournament, or we bring those guys online. There's various ways of doing it.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yes, and then have them at the U22, and then at the senior and under 25 women's event in 2025. Then hopefully we would have got more direction from IWBF, for how they're supporting the Players Commission, and then maybe there's some budget for Africa's Player Commission via IWBF, and then we can look at what's needed there.
Okay.
Great. Anything else?
I think this is all for now. So Jerry will regroup with you with the communication for the regular, like for the different chairpersons.
Perfect.
And we can start taking it from there.
Also, guys, so you spoke about sitting in the meetings. Tomorrow is the technical commission meeting. So I'll on the players group, I'll just share that. Whichever one of you wants to join that, you just come on board.
Okay. Can also, like, if you don't mind just sharing, if you have any other meetings coming, just so we can kind of
I'm going to
align our calendars.
Next time I see you, Alassane, I'm going to get, I don't know, some spare wheelchair, and I'm going to smash it over you. If you go back to the calendar that I shared on the Executive Council, there's all the meetings are listed there with the Zoom links, so they're all there.
So, like, for the rest of the
I will share it now on the players group. Have a look at the calendar that I'm referring to, because I also get that that there's a lot of messages backwards and chatter and all that. So I'll give you the benefit of the doubt now, but I'm going to share this calendar and it's on there.
No, I see it. Okay.
You see it.
All
okay.
right.
So I've done the meeting date, and then next to it is the Zoom link. So you can just jump onto any one of those meetings that you feel you need to be on.
Sweet. Thank you so much, man. Appreciate it.
Perfect. Great.
All right.
So I think from my side, that's it. Charles, any last comments? Are you happy?
Very happy. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, guys.
And Michelle, we'll get you into some competition. Don't worry.
Definitely, I would love that.
Okay. Any other comments, Michelle?
No, everything is good. Thank you. This was awesome.
Cool. So you know how to get hold of me. Whatever you need, just let me know.
Mm.
Well,
Alright.
within reason. All right. Thanks, guys.
All right. Bye, guys.
Thanks.
Bye, guys.
Have a good day
Cheers.
or a
Enjoy.
good night.
Bye
Ciao, ciao,
bye.
bye.